Why was it the Spanish, and not the English, French, or anyone else, who discovered America? We know that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, trying to find a way to Asia. But why was it Spain, and not another European power that equipped his expedition? Let's find out. At the end of the 15th century, Europe was going through great changes. Capitalism was being born, large commodity production was emerging, and, as a consequence, trade was developing. Trade in Asian goods, spices, silk, precious metals, and was very profitable. Later, we will see that Vasco da Gama's expedition to India, 1499, brought a profit 30 times greater than the cost of this expedition. That is, the profit amounted to 3,000%. Not surprisingly, during the 15th century, direct access to Asian goods was a coveted dream of Europeans, which would ensure the country's development and dominance in the region. However, in the 15th century, the Ottoman Empire came into full force. It possessed a powerful professional army, including an elite corps of janissaries, and controlled key trading centers such as Constantinople, present-day Istanbul, which was captured in 1453, as well as Cairo and Baghdad. As a result, trade routes to Asia became completely controlled by the Turks, who charged European merchants high trade duties, making Eastern goods extremely expensive. The question arises, why did the Europeans, having an interest in trade routes, not take them away from the Ottomans by military force? After all, something similar had already happened during the Crusades. But by the 15th century, the world had changed. To the east of Europe, there was not a fragmented Muslim world, separated by a buffer state Byzantium, but a unified Ottoman Empire, which was then at the peak of its power. It was out of the question that the European countries could overcome it in a short historical period of time, especially considering that they themselves were disunited and occupied with European problems. Long sea voyages to uncharted destinations seem at first glance to be very grandiose undertakings. However, they are much cheaper and easier than heavy and ruinous wars with powerful countries. Therefore, the only real alternative to accessing Asian markets was sea voyages bypassing the Ottoman Empire. But who could undertake these voyages? France and England were involved in the 100 Years' War, 1337–1453, which left them economically and politically unstable. After the war, England faced internal strife, such as the War of the Roses, 1455–1487, which prevented it from funding major exploration. France under Charles VIII and Louis XII was more focused on expansion into Italy than on overseas ventures. The Holy Roman Empire was a disparate collection of states that had no unified government to fund long-distance exploration. Plus, it was embroiled in the Italian Wars. The powerful Hanseatic League, which united German merchants, focused more on Baltic and North Sea trade than on oceanic exploration. The Netherlands was under Spanish rule until the Dutch Revolt, 1568–1648. After independence, the Dutch became major players in the spice trade, but this was decades after Portugal and Spain had already dominated the seas. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway had harsh climates and small populations, which limited their ability to invest in global exploration. The Norwegians had explored North America a few centuries earlier. You can learn more about that in other videos on this channel. But they had no economic incentive to travel further. Also, the Arab states of the Maghreb and the West African kingdoms were players on the international stage. But these states traditionally controlled overland trade routes and had little incentive to open new ones across the ocean. In addition, these once powerful countries were in decline, fragmented and often at war with each other. So, the first to seek a route to Asia were Portugal and Spain.
We continue, and you put a like and subscribe.
Portugal during this period was not involved in devastating wars and was politically stable. At the same time, it did not have sufficient forces to engage in major European land conflicts. Having defended its independence in previous eras against the Moors and against Spain, Portugal decided to focus on maritime travel, capturing new lands with minimal resistance. Its geographical position with a long Atlantic coastline also contributed to this. From the mid-1400s, Portuguese navigators, supported by Prince Henry the Navigator and then King John II, explored the African coast, establishing trading posts, forts, and establishing their dominance in the region. By 1488, Bartolomeu Dias had reached the Cape of Good Hope, proving that sailing around Africa was possible. It was to the Portuguese King John II that Christopher Columbus in 1484 proposed his plan to reach Asia by sailing westward. But the king rejected it, having an already explored and efficient route around Africa. Christopher Columbus then moved to Spain in 1485. Spain at this time was a newly formed and young entity. Not long before, in 1469, the four Christian kingdoms of the Iberian Peninsula, Castile, Aragon, Leon, and Navarre, had been united by the marriage of King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella of Castile, following a difficult and long road along the way. But once united, Spain continued the Reconquista, a long war to liberate the Iberian Peninsula from the Moors. This war was ended in 1492 with the capture of Granada. Spain was militarily and financially depleted and could not count on further expansion in Europe or Africa, including direct confrontation with Portugal. At the same time, having gained territorial unity and having some financial and military resources, Spain could not but continue its development. Therefore, in 1492, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella agreed to Columbus's proposal and sent him to lead an expedition to the west.